Do you want to know what this is?
In college, my gay best friend and I joked that if we hadn't found love by 40, we'd have a baby with each other. 20 years later, I'm pulling the ripcord. From deciding on solo motherhood to choosing IVF, I'm Meredith, and this is The Backup Plan.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another week of The Backup Plan. And thank you for all your well wishes last week. If you haven't watched, I have two healthy embryos frozen. I have one more kind of iffy embryo. It's a segmental mosaic, but two are great. They've been through the PGT-A testing and they're both normal. Michael and I went through carrier screening, so we know that there isn't any overlapping genetic condition that we are both carriers of that we could give to this child. So I'm on my way. It's just very exciting. And this contains all of the information about my embryos, including the sex. I got the sex of both Pain and Panic and Chip and Dale, even though Dale is no longer with us. I want to be respectful of the fact that they were made, and I want to know a little bit more about them. So this envelope will be passed to Christina, and she is going to be the main planner of the embryo shower, which we learn more information, mostly just the sex. So I'm really, really excited. I got to go to Kindbody and pick this up, and it's been killing me. I mean, it's just Scotch tape sealed. It's not licked as well. It's only a single sealed, but it is wild to know what's in there. So I gotta hide it. You're listening to this possibly on Wednesday. On Saturday the 20th, I think I'm gonna try and live stream our reveal of what all the sex of the embryos are. So stay tuned for that. I'll post about it on Instagram with a little bit more information and some details because we're still planning it. It's last minute, but Christina is like booked and busy for the rest of the summer. And this is the one weekend we can do it. I think we're gonna do something casual. It may be Taco Bell themed. So stay tuned for that. The implantation day has been set. I had a lovely call with my doctor and we talked about a couple different things. First of all, it's amazing how brief these conversations are when everything's normal and healthy. It's just like, yep, it's good, which is nice compared to the first results I got. No news is good news, literally in this case. So after the very brief conversation with my doctor about the health of the embryos, we talked about implantation, and those plans have been made now. I have an implantation date. It is on the calendar. There is a time, there is a place. Dr. Sundheimer is going to perform it herself. She unfortunately was not a part of my egg retrieval process, but she is going to be implanting the embryo, which I really like because I just want her to be part of it because she's been so, I don't know. I talk about how I feel bad for heterosexual couples who don't get to have so many people be a part of their family planning process. This feels like a party. Every single part of it has felt like a party. Even when I was in the RV getting my ultrasounds done, I mean, it was a janky party, but it was still a party. Like, there were people involved. And in doing this alone, so many people feel the need to reach out and ask questions and be a part of it. So I really don't feel like I'm having this baby alone. I feel like I'm having it with a whole village of people. Just the village people. So the biggest topic of conversation with Dr. Sundheimer after we talked about the health of the embryos was how we're going to move forward with a frozen embryo transfer. I recognize that some of you who are joining don't necessarily know exactly what a frozen embryo transfer is. So I went online to some reputable sources and got some definitions for you. So trusty iPhone to the rescue. Now this is from NYU's Langone Fertility Center. I think that's how you pronounce it. And this is just kind of like a textbook definition. Embryo transfer is a simple technique, thank God. And anesthesia or sedation are rarely required. Boo, I don't like the anesthesia. A long, thin catheter containing an agreed upon number of embryos, in this case it'll be 1 for me, along with a small amount of fluid is passed through the cervix into the uterus where the embryo or embryos are released. An abdominal ultrasound is simultaneously performed to ensure optimal placement in the uterus. So my embryos are currently frozen, I think in a tank in Santa Monica. They've been sitting there in a tank of cryo something or other. And when I show up to do the frozen embryo transfer, they will take them out of the container and get ready to stick it in. So the big question that Dr. Sundheimer had for me was whether or not I wanted to go with a natural cycle or if I wanted to go with a controlled cycle. I have been wary in the past about adding any more hormones to this process than necessary. For instance, I could have taken birth control to kind of control where I was at in my cycle, and I could have had the egg retrieval done maybe like a week earlier or a couple of days earlier, and I said, nah, don't worry about it. In this case, now that I have the embryos and I know how hard it was to create them, I really want to control as much as I can. And so we're going the controlled route. So what are the differences between a natural and a controlled route? Well, thankfully, there are a lot of fertility centers around the world that have a lot of this information on their website. So let me read this information to you from ovoclinic.net, which is a clinic in Spain. And apparently Spain are like the leaders on a lot of fertility stuff, so we can trust them. And it's in English. Frozen embryo transfers can be carried out within a natural cycle or an artificial cycle, the controlled cycle. In general terms, the main difference between these two is the way in which the endometrium is prepared. The endometrium is the lining that covers the interior of the uterus and provides a place for the embryo to attach and implant. Now, as a reminder, I have a cuterus. That is what my sonogram technician has been telling me every step of the way. And every time my nurses and my doctor look at my numbers, they go, oh wow, your uterus looks great. So let's hear it from my endometrium. A natural cycle is termed as such because it uses the natural oestrogens created by the ovaries. In contrast, in an artificial cycle, the oestrogens are administered using medications. The choice of one over another will be decided by your doctor, taking into account patient preferences, characteristics, and their menstrual cycle. So I have decided to go that controlled route. My doctor thinks the controlled route is the better way to go because we have a little bit more control over it. I know that she's the one who's going to be performing my implantation, and I trust her, and I know she knows how precious these little embryos are and will handle them with the utmost care. Not that any other doctor at Kindbody would do it differently, but she's just a part of it. She's just a part of it. In the meantime, I have been told to basically pretend like I already am pregnant. I am not drinking. I have actually stopped taking caffeine, which has been incredibly difficult. I have been very sleepy. I am very sleepy now. I would much, much rather be in my bed holding my cat right now and drifting off to slumberland. However, I'm here with you guys. I gotta record this. I gotta get it out. Just trying to eat healthier and just making sure I'm getting more nutrients in my meals. Doing a little bit more movement. I've gotten a massage. I went and got a facial. Did a very nice yin yoga practice tomorrow, and that teacher practices on Saturdays and Wednesdays, so I'm gonna do that this whole time. I kind of want to do acupuncture, but I had such a bad reaction the last time that I don't want to mess with that. It wasn't relaxing, so I don't want to do it. Once my period starts, which should be in a little over a week-ish, I will start more medication. I'll start doing new shots. These are the progesterone in oil shots, which go in my ass, and I have been told they're terrible. So I've heard with these, you should heat rather than ice it beforehand, that you should heat it up. Since it's an oil-based medication, if it's warm, it kind of disperses easier. So we'll see. Do a little bit more research. If you have any hints or tips, please send me an email to info@backuplanpod.com, or if you're watching this on YouTube, leave a comment below. That would be very helpful because I will take all the tips I can get. Yeah, then after, it's like 10-ish days of taking that medication, it's time for the frozen embryo transfer. And then after that, I am going to think good thoughts. That's all we can do at this point. So then what happens after it gets transferred? Tell me, NYU. After a blastocyst embryo transfer is completed, it takes about 9 days before pregnancy can be detected. During the days after a transfer, the following happens to the embryo. Day 1, the blastocyst begins to hatch out of its shell. Day 2, the blastocyst continues to hatch out of its shell and begins to attach itself to the uterus. Day 3, the blastocyst attaches deeper into the uterine lining, beginning implantation. Day 4, implantation continues. Day 5, implantation is complete. Cells that eventually become the placenta and fetus have begun to develop. Day 6, human chorionic Human chorionic gonadotropin. HCG. The hormone that signals a developing pregnancy starts to enter the bloodstream. Days 7 and 8, fetal development continues and HCG continues to be secreted. Day 9, levels of HCG are now high enough in maternal blood to detect a pregnancy using a blood test. So that's like the most days and like the fewest amount of days for like something to happen. It's just crazy. It's crazy to me that when they put it in, I'm going to be 5 days pregnant. Like, that's crazy. It's crazy. The science is wild. You know, for so long, I thought that this was such a, like, I don't know, too hands-on, too... It didn't feel natural enough to me. But, like, yeah, like I said, a whole party, like the Village people are creating my baby, but there's so many variables that can happen along the way that it almost, I don't know, like it does kind of feel more magical than a natural conception. I just never thought I'd feel that way about this. I will share that this embryo transfer is happening right around the anniversary of my dad's passing. And if it takes, my due date would be around his birthday. So that feels special. It feels palpable and like meaty, you know? Has meaning. August hasn't been fun for the past couple of years, so if I have a reason for it to be a good month, I would take that. So anyway, if you have any questions for me, please feel free to reach out. You know how to get in touch. It's Backup Plan Pod on Instagram. Again, YouTube, leave comments below. If you're listening to this on the podcast, make sure you go over to YouTube and subscribe because I am going to have a little bit of a format change coming up. I've realized I really enjoy the editing process for YouTube and I really enjoy the growth potential that there is on YouTube. I've gotten a lot more traction there than I have on the podcast, but I like doing the podcast. So I'm going to continue doing that. But I think that when the pregnancy comes, these kind of updates are going to be on YouTube and then we might just move more to interview style stuff on the podcast. So if you're watching on YouTube, it's a good opportunity for you to go subscribe on my podcast, anywhere you listen to podcasts. I think that's it this week. It's been a busy weekend. I did 2 concerts and a baby shower. I'm sufficiently pooped. I hate starting a week like that, but what are you gonna do? Next week's gonna be crazy too, because we're gonna learn about my little embryos. It's gonna be great. Thanks for listening, everybody. I hope your week is fantastic.
The Backup Plan is created, produced, and hosted by me, Meredith Kate. Julian Hagans is my co-producer. You can find us on social media at Backup Plan Pod. The best place to get updates is to sign up for our newsletter at backupplanpod.com, where we also post all episodes, show notes, and transcripts. Thank you for listening.